Hello, welcome to this YouTube video. I am going to go through why dieting um, is easier than maintaining your results long term. So, research shows that dieting is easier than actually maintaining the results long term. And I am going to go through why I think that is. And I think that this is going to really help. If you're someone who can do dieting, but at the end of the diet, you go out of control. You stuff your face, don't really have a sense of control, don't have the ideology of balance within nutrition, um, and just gain your weight back. And then you have to go back into a diet. Or if you're someone who feels like you have to just be in a diet for the rest of your life, then this is the video for you. So get your pen and paper out because we're going to get into it. If my camera's shaking, it's because it's shaking. My this desk doesn't have it's a stand-up desk and it doesn't have the screws in. Some guy sold it to me on Facebook Marketplace and so it didn't tell me that. So I'm having to kind of like deal with this thing that moves if I just lean up against it. So apologies if you see that. But let's get into it. So essentially, what diets do is put you in a calorie deficit. So a calorie deficit is very simply eating less calories than you exert in a day. So if we are gaining weight, we're in a calorie surplus, which is this one here. So calories in are higher than the calories that we are um, using during the day. Maintenance is those two are fairly equal. And then a deficit, which is being in a diet, is less calories that you consume, and you exert more calories throughout the day. So diets have a process. They restrict certain foods, and I have an issue with this because what diets do is put you in a bit of a box, and they don't teach you how to live life after the diet, which is why so many of you are fantastic at dieting and see some results. But as soon as you take your foot off the gas pedal with the diet and you allow yourself to just eat whatever you want, you don't have the ability, understanding, skill set, experience just yet to know how to do that. So weight comes back on really quickly, and you feel like, oh, I've just got to live my life in a diet for the rest of my life. And I'm telling you that is not the case. It's just that you've not experienced how to maintain. You've not experienced what life looks like through a maintenance approach. So the issue I have with this one here, the restriction of certain foods. If I was to say to you, don't think of a pink elephant for the whole of today, I guarantee you're going to think of a pink elephant. If I tell you you're not going to do, if I tell you not to do something, you're going to want to do it. It's just human nature. And this works exactly the same with nutrition. So when we restrict ourselves from certain foods, like sugary foods or foods that we feel like are bad for us, what we're doing there is we're heightening the thought of having those foods, and we're heightening the inability to control ourselves when we introduce those foods. So let me take you down perhaps a familiar experience that you've experienced. So when you restrict burgers and cookies and ice cream and all of the good fun foods, you for 3 weeks are fine. You're able to do it. It's fairly easy to start with. A week in, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you've built some momentum, you've lost some weight, and what do? You go to a social event and there are some cookies on a buffet style thing with some burgers and some ice cream, and you say to yourself, I'll just have one. And your brain is thinking, right, I can have this now, but I'm in a scarcity mindset. I don't know when I'm going to have this food ever again. So I'm going to consume, I'm going to consume and consume and consume and consume. And you feel like you're completely out of control. You feel like you're completely back to square one and you have to go back into a diet, which you're really not enjoying. So with with that being said, the way I want you to think of this is you have to have unconditional permission to eat absolutely anything. And I understand that a diet is to, when you restrict certain foods like hyperpalatable foods, like donuts and cookies and burgers and blah, 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 all these really nice foods, they're very high calorie foods. So I understand the that's why diets work. You're reducing the amount of calories. You're going for whole processed foods that are easy to digest, or that are, sorry, easy to digest, that are very filling and keep you satiated for longer. So I completely understand why diets work that way, right? But you have to have a thought process of, I can eat absolutely anything that I want at any point, because you will allow your brain to not be working in a scarcity mindset. Your brain will allow your brain's going to just be a little bit more flexible. It's going to work with you a little bit more. So I'm doing this, but let's take it back a little bit to the caveman days. So our brain has evolved, obviously, since then, but we still have mechanisms where our brain's always trying to protect us. And so let's take it back. Caveman days, what our ancestors did at that point is they tried to stay alive at all times. So searching for food and protecting themselves from predators or whatever it is. Now, when they went out, they didn't have a supermarket. They couldn't just get whatever they wanted to get. So when they saw some berries, they didn't just have one berry. It was sweet. They'd have loads and loads and loads of berries because their brain didn't know when they're going to be able to get that ever again. So overconsumed all of this energy. And so that back then makes complete sense. Less so now. It doesn't really work with us so much now, obviously, because we can go out and we can get berries. You know what? We can get really nice stuff now that we've made, right? Ice cream, cookies, burgers, all these kinds of things. And when we, like I said, restrict ourselves, when I say to you, don't think of a pink elephant, you're automatically going to think of a pink elephant. When you're restricting yourselves from these really nice foods, your brain doesn't know when it's going to get it next. And that's why you experience what you experience when you reintroduce it. So my thing for you is unconditional permission to eat anything. If you're in a diet, right? If you're in a diet and you are cutting out all sugar, fine, okay. However, think about what I've just said. Unconditional permission to eat anything allows your brain to be a little bit more relaxed and understand, oh, I can have these foods whenever I want. So when you do finish the diet, and you perhaps have experienced that within the diet at moments here and there, you're going to be in a better position to be able to control your thought, your urges, perhaps, or your thoughts, your emotions around these types of things. So, very, very quickly, or maybe not very, very quickly, but if we just zoom out a little bit here, body fat doesn't happen overnight. So, body fat happens over a period of time. So, if I get a pen for you guys, and let's draw something here just to give you some context. Why is that not working? Give me that thing. Okay, cool. So we are. Oh no, I need that. This is good, isn't it, John? Come on. Yes, I'd like that. Thank you. Right. So if we think about it this way, body fat doesn't happen overnight. And research has shown that we increase our weight through times of where there's more food, right? So Easter, Christmas, birthdays, Thanksgiving, depending where you are in the world, um, all of these social events. And so what happens is you have, why is that not working? Okay, here we go. Probably, this is the first time I'm using this, so you gotta bear with me. But right, so at the start of the year, and there's a birthday, we bump up in weight. And we don't drop that weight, we maintain that weight for a period of time. And then there's Easter and we bump up weight. And again, there's Thanksgiving. I don't know if those are the right way around. And then we get to, another social event. And then, oh, look, it's summer, so we get some beers involved on the patio. Weight goes up, stays here. And guess what? We're at Christmas, weight goes up and we stay here. And if you think of that, right? Let's say that is £5, £10, 5 kg, wherever you are in the world. And then you do that year on year on year on year. What's happening? You're gaining weight throughout the whole of that time. So it's really important just to kind of like show you that moving forward, because I think a lot of people don't realize that when they increase their weight just slightly in one day, overnight, they panic and they think it's body fat. That's not the case. And body fat happens from a really, really, really long, kind of like a long time. Substantial amount of body fat is what I'm talking about here. So if we come across here, what are you missing? What are you missing? You're really good at dieting, or you've done dieting, you understand what dieting is, whether you've been successful massively or not. What are you missing? Well, you need to learn how to do maintenance. You need to think of dieting as a tool, not how the rest of your life should look. That's a massive one. I think if you feel like your life has to be dieting, like if you feel like you have to diet for the rest of your life, then this is for you. You have to learn maintenance, because that is not the case. It is not the case. If you're someone who can do dieting but can't control yourself after, it's not because you're broken. It's really important. It's just because you've not experienced, you've not understood what to do, what skills to acquire. Have awareness around certain thoughts and emotions that might lead you to certain foods. Maybe you don't have acceptance. Maybe when you do overconsume on things, you just don't have acceptance around what's actually happening. So loads and loads and loads of different things. Now, one thing that you need to know is you will fail, and failure is a good thing. I always mess this quote up, but Michael Jordan once said that he has failed more times than he has succeeded. He has failed more shots than he has scored. He has failed losing more games than he has won games. He didn't get into his high school basketball team, which is absolutely mad to think. He did not get into his high school basketball team. That was a failure. And if he had allowed that failure to take over, if he had judged himself massively and massively and paralyzed himself in fear of in fear of actioning things, in the fear of failing, then he wouldn't have become the basketball player he was. So your brain, in order for you to change things and bring things in, right, change nutritional approaches and habits, and even just exercising, walking, getting up at a specific time, etc., etc., you will fail. And that's really important to accept, because if you fail, you've got an opportunity to learn. So it's okay to fail, because it's normal and it's a part of habit change. So what I want you to do is fail and fail again and fail again and fail even harder. And might sound really weird to hear, but you might be 10 fails away from one success. If you knew you were 10 fails away from one success, I guarantee you're going to fail quickly. And that's part of the process. When you're learning how to maintain, which I'm going to show you in a second, you will fail. You need to understand what works for you. and you need to reflect and look on what is the thing that's blocking you? What's the thing that's stopping you from succeeding? Learn from that failure and go again. Fail again, learn again, fail again, learn again, and then eventually you'll find something that does actually work for you. So, what are we going to do now? We're going to go through some maintenance protocols, some ideas for you to take away and think about. Now, protein is massive. Research has shown protein has been or is very, 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 very satiating. So if your protein is very low, if you don't feel like you're getting enough protein in, make sure that that is a staple. You have to get your protein up, not just from muscle building and by the way, women, if you are worried about building loads of muscle, you won't build loads of muscle just from a physiological standpoint. It's not possible to become like Arnold and get really bulky. So if that is a concern, make sure that allow it not to be. I know it's hard to accept that when I've just said it in like a few sentences, but I promise you that you won't get massive. Allow yourself to have high protein, allow yourself to resistance train, because from a maintenance standpoint, a high protein diet is going to help massively with sustaining results long term. Portion control and protein. So portion control and protein. Protein, I'm going to harp on about that all day, every day. It's really, really important from just this specific thing for fat loss, satiation. But another thing is portion control. So if you see this plate here, half of the plate is vegetables, quarter of the plate is carbs from rice, and then quarter of the plate is a chicken breast. Now that's a really, really good meal because it's very low in calories and got a lot of micronutrients and fiber. So the higher the fiber, the more vegetables that you have, the more protein that you have, the less ultra-processed foods you're going to fill up for longer, and you're going to consume less calories in total. There was a research paper where one group was allowed to eat ultra-processed foods, so things like chips and chocolate and I can't quite remember on the top of my head exactly what their meals were, but they're very ultra-processed foods. And the other group was whole foods. Whole foods is basically one ingredient type of thing. It's not gone through a process to like chips or yogurt, or it's one food, one ingredient, and they were both allowed to eat as much as they wanted to. The group that ate the ultra processed food ate 500 calories more. 500 more each day. Now, if you did that in a week, there's in 1 pound of fat, body fat, there's 3,500 calories. So this group was gaining 1 pound of fat in a week compared to the group that had a whole food matrix of nutrition. So that's massive. And by the way, macronutrients, protein, fiber, taste, sugar, all of these were accounted for. They were both the same. They were both the same. Just one was ultra processed and one wasn't. So if you're going to take anything from this video, when you try and do maintenance, think about high protein, high veg, not as much ultra processed foods. However, unconditional permission to eat anything. Sometimes you're allowed a cake. Sometimes you're allowed, some ice cream if you want it. When you're out with friends, why not have that tiramisu? Whatever you enjoy. But the bulk of your diet really needs to be, protein, whole foods, and fiber. Number 3, hunger and fullness. This is a really interesting one because Sometimes people will feel hungry, but it might be down to something completely different. If you're unaware of what hunger and satiation actually feels like, then you're unaware of you're missing a key component of being able to control things moving forward. Um, so when you're eating food, before you eat your food, think about, am I hungry? How hungry am I? So if we were to do like a scale, one is you're ravenous, you're extremely hungry. 10 is you are stuffed. Like you feel like your stomach is going to burst, you're regurgitating food type of thing. We obviously don't want to be on either of those scales. We want to be more in the middle. And so when you're about to eat, think, how hungry am I? If you're less than a 4, for example, well then there may be something that you need to do and think about moving forward. Why am I so hungry? Have I um have I got, you know, protein and fiber, and have I been focusing on whole foods? Was my breakfast a bowl of cornflakes? Is that why I'm really, really hungry? So again, it's just leaving you data halfway through your meal. How full are you? Right? If it's a 5, cool, we're in a good place. After your meal, how satiated are you? Rating that scale. I'm a 10. I'm absolutely stuffed. Why? What's gone on? What's the thought process? Have you put too much food on your plate, and are you someone who doesn't want to leave food? Are you someone who doesn't want to waste food? Again, just data that allows you to understand yourself a little bit more so you can control your environment a little bit more that way. Number 4 is a big one, social events. If you're going out to an event and you're wanting to think about enjoyment around that event, well, maybe you can save some calories during the week. Maybe you reduce carbs on one meal for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So on Saturday, you have more calories to play with. And then on the day of the actual event, what can you pick? What do you have control over? Can you look at the menu? Is there high protein and high veg meals? Is it a buffet? And are you going to allow yourself to have unconditional permission to eat? Because I think you should, but just don't be a dickhead and eat like a little child. So loads of things to think about within that social dynamic. And they're just a couple things. Another thing that comes to mind, these people are holding drinks. Well, can we go diet soda? Can we go alcohol drink and then split that with a water and then go back to an alcoholic drink and then a water just to spread things out? What choices are we having? If we're having things that like ales, um, cocktails, they're going to be really, really high in calories. And you're okay to have that, but just understanding those are really high in calories. So maybe I need to do something during the week if I want to have them. Or maybe the following day I plan on doing something there with my nutrition just to help just to help with that maintenance approach. And then number 5, easy structured meals. This is such a game changer, really. If you plan ahead and look at your meals. What do you enjoy and what works? Now, if you're doing a diet, the, the simplest thing you could do is keep those meals the same, but just increase the volume on certain things. If you're having a chicken, broccoli, and rice dish, right? Hopefully, not just salt and pepper, you've got some flavor in there, and you're in a diet, right? All you would do with that one is just increase the rice volume a little bit. Thinking about what meals do you enjoy and how can you incorporate them into your diet? Do you like a pizza? Have the bloody pizza. But maybe instead of the whole pizza, you have 2 slices and then a side salad that you make and prepare yourself. Just trying to think outside the box, but thinking what meals do I enjoy and how can I structure them so it's easy for me to prepare, easy for me to plan, Do you like having your breakfast and your lunch the same every day and then a bit of variety in the evening? Do you have full control over the evening meal? You have more control in the breakfast and lunch, but don't have much control in the evening meal. Well, maybe you need to save some calories for that evening meal because you don't know how many calories are, you're not preparing it. You don't know how much oil is being used, etc. Yes, you can have that conversation with people, of course, with your loved ones, of course you can, but in essence, you're not going to have full control over that. So the things that you do have control over, how can you reduce the calories a little bit? How can you feel more satiated? How can you get more protein in? How can you get more veggies in? How can you reduce the whole process? How can you reduce processed foods, ultra processed foods there too? And number six, mindfulness. This is a really interesting one. And this is one for people who find that maybe they do emotionally eat a little bit. So if you're someone who feels like your relationship with food might not be the best, this might be a good approach for you. And by the way, if that is the case, I wouldn't diet because you need to understand what that is, why that is. So when we use food to help us as a coping strategy, it's because there's something going on. And the first thing you need to do is have awareness around what that might be. So there may be certain thoughts, certain emotions, certain beliefs that are going on in your life that you need to be more aware of to allow yourself to challenge that and try and change that habit of that coping strategy. Because let's face it, food is great. There's no one on this earth that doesn't enjoy food. And if there was, they'd probably be dead because they wouldn't be eating. Everyone enjoys food. I say everyone. Most people enjoy food. Let's not go to the extremes, but because it tastes good, it makes us feel good. And that's okay. What's not okay is when we overconsume because we are trying to mask things, make us feel better, avoid, distract ourselves from our thoughts and from our emotions. And that can be really scary to try and face, but it is important in order for you to change that process of emotional eating. And emotional eating, by the way, doesn't necessarily need to be just emotion and thoughts. It could be that you're stressed. Yes, that's a combination of emotion and thoughts that are negative, of course, but it could just be that you're overstimulated, overstressed, bored. Boredom is a huge one. Why are you bored? Really reflecting on why you're bored, because if you can create that awareness, then you can create a change. You can challenge that and you can fail at that thing. So if I give you an example, if I reflect and I'm eating a tub of ice cream and I stop myself and I think, why am I doing this? Well, I'm bored. Why am I bored? It's because I'm alone. You know, I might come home, there's no one here, I'm alone, and I'm just lonely. And maybe I'm just trying to fill that gap of loneliness. And so, how can I change that? Well, if I don't have awareness, firstly, I can't change it. So now I've got awareness and I understand it a little bit more. So now I can try and think about what can I do when I feel like this again? Well, instead of going for the tub of ice cream, maybe I call a friend and have a conversation with a friend. And then if you know what, if I want a tub of ice cream after that call, I'm going to have that tub of ice cream because unconditional permission to eat anything. But it just allows you to understand that a little bit deeper and trial and error things, trial things out, experiment, just see what works for you. That's the key here. So I hope this has been helpful. Um, the the things I'd want you to take away from this are, I think you've already got it: protein, high protein, less ultra processed foods, veggies, fiber, fill yourself up. Fail, 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 fail. 10 times, you might fail 10 times before you reach one success. If you knew that, you'd fail 10 times quickly. And the big one is unconditional permission to eat anything. If you've been in diets where they've restricted foods from you, if you've been in diets that have taken away sugary foods, if your relationship with food wasn't good in the first place and you've dieted and it's even worse, then these are things that you need to repair um, before going into any dieting, essentially. But I'm going to leave it there. It was a heavy one. I'll speak to you soon. See you on the next one, and appreciate you.